Sarah Champion from the Labour Party, David Linden from the SNP and Damian Green from the Conservative Party. Now, Sam, what did you make of that? Any news?
Well, something approximating news. There's a big discussion going on at the moment about the triple lock. That's the guarantee to raise pensions, the state pension, by either earnings or prices or 2.5%. And yesterday, the Work and Pension Secretary put the cat amongst the pigeons by suggesting it's unsustainable, and Rishi Sunak at the weekend didn't commit to putting it in the manifesto. Now, he talked about it being important today and the Conservative Party being the party of the triple lock. But it's interesting, Number 10 and Rishi Sunak in that PMQs, not just definitively shutting down and committing to the triple lock appearing in the manifesto and therefore being a promise for the next 5 years if the Tory get it. I'm just curious why. I can't quite work it out. Don't forget, the Tories 20 points behind in the polls, but amongst over 65, 22 points ahead. You know, why not just do it?
Well, perhaps he thinks that he doesn't need to do it at this point. I mean, could that be his reasoning?
It's hard to know. More generally, I think that in this Prime Minister's Questions, you sort of got the sense of what it's like having two politicians who are both technocrats leading the two big political parties. I mean, there's a point in that Prime Minister's Questions where they were trading blows about different types of review into China, and I nearly lost the will to live. But I do think that you can see that being a technocrat perhaps just helps Keir Starmer that little bit more when things aren't going particularly well. Keir Starmer effectively talking about the litany of things that have gone wrong: prisons, probation, schools, China, leading to that Inaction man drive. Rishi Sunak just reaching for Keir Starmer and the Corbyn years. But just quickly, can I just tell you about something that annoys me?
Come on.
Right? Rishi Sunak talked about prison releases, prison escapes being 10 times higher under Labour. Now let's look at the graph. I hope it can come up on the screen. And if you look at the graph, and there we go. You can see the story here is that when Labour came to power in 1997, they inherited a huge number of people escaping from prisons. And over the Labour years, up till 2010, that number's brought right down, and it's stayed down since the Tories were back in coalition and in government after that. I find it bizarre that the Prime Minister goes on about this figure 10 times more, when really that's the story of Labour sorting out that problem. So why did he go on about it?
Good question. Let's bring in our panel. Maybe, Damian, you can answer some of that. Why do you think he goes on about it?
Well, I'm not sure that graph showed that. If you look at 2004-5, which was 8 years after Labour came in, it went back up again, so it spikes up and down.
A little bit.
I think, quite a lot. But the other point Sam made that I thought was, I think if we were in Parliament, I'd describe as disingenuous. You see, why don't people commit to things in manifestos? Because you know perfectly well, you would be the first journalist out to say, OK, you've committed to that. Are you going to commit to this? Are you going to commit to that? Once you start
but he could commit to this.
The
point is he could commit to this because, as Sam says, it seems odd that he's not committed to it.
And the Labour Party is doing exactly the same thing and are sensible in doing so. Angela Rayner didn't commit to the triple lock over the weekend because no party wants to drip out its manifesto except in a controlled way that it wants to do. So it is a straight. I think it's It's not the case that this is. It should be overinterpreted.
Damian, thank you for that. Sarah, come in on that. I mean, why haven't the Labour Party committed to it as well?
Well, I want to start by saying I think it's the wrong thing to wind people up over. This is having genuine anxiety. You know, these are people, pensioners, who can't get an alternative source of income, and it seems as though there's a little bit of political football going on with their futures, and I don't like it, and I really think it would be utter madness for any politician, particularly right now in a cost of living crisis, to play around with that, and I just hope, and I have not heard anything that Labour's going to do anything that undermines the triple lock, so I just hope that I'm right on that.
Eyebrows raised because Stephen Flynn went on this, your spokesperson in Westminster, and the SNP fully behind the idea of the triple lock.
Yeah, we happen to believe in keeping our manifesto commitments, and we committed to the triple lock and would commit to the triple lock again in a manifesto. I mean, I think Sam's right. I mean, what we've had are two technocrats fighting it out, and people in Scotland look on and they see both parties where, on the big issues of the day, they're largely in the same place, so that the rhetoric around about small boats, they both support Brexit, they both are content with a bedroom tax, a two-child policy and rape clause. Voters in Scotland want a proper choice, and that will only come with independence, because what we saw in that version of PMQs, there are no answers to the cost of living crisis, which is the single biggest thing that my constituents in Glasgow East raise. And I think what they're taking out from that session is that under this United Kingdom government that Scotland voted to stay a part of in 2014, that the triple lock is no longer safe, which is in direct consequence of,
You got the
of that.
independents call in earlier than I was expecting you to. I knew it was going to come.
You got the
very quickly.
bingo.
Exactly. Who ticked it off? I mean, so how much do you think that, you know, because that's not the first time Stephen Flynn's done it and David's done it, to try and put the Labour Party and the Conservative Party as if you can't separate them with a cigarette paper?
Oh, I mean, that's absolutely what they're going to be going into the general election with. It's well, you've discovered every
how
answer.
Is it to the Labour Party in Scotland? Because, of course, as we know, the path back to number 10 goes through Scotland for the Labour Party.
I think that to underestimate constituents is a foolish thing to do, and I think people can quite clearly see the difference. I mean, Keir today went to his safe space. He went to protection. You know, that's what his background's in. That's what I think people are worried about at the moment. And it's not just sort of personal protection that he was talking about. It's also our public services, which, while Rishi Sunak was both Chancellor and as Prime Minister, he hasn't invested in the infrastructure there, and people on the ground are really feeling that. So I think Keir was right to go the direction that he went, and I understand, of course, why Scotland did the direction that they did.
And Damian, I mean, not great news this morning for the Prime Minister with the growth figures. You know, he's going to grow the economy, and growth has gone down slightly for this month.
It has in 1 month, but it has been growing recently. We've just seen the big revision upwards of what happened to growth during the pandemic years. And by and large, after what has been a tough period, there's no point denying it. The underlying economic fundamentals are getting better. We've got inflation coming down. The big economic news for people in their lives this week is that we now have real wages growing again. That wages are growing faster than inflation for the first time for some years. And in the end, that's what makes a huge difference to people's capacity to live and enjoy their lives to the full. So I think that's good economic news.
Sam, I mean, what do you make of that? 'Cause actually, on Ian King's programme just before, although we're technically going to be in recession, people are feeling the pinch, and despite what Damian says, people are feeling, like they don't have enough money in their pockets.
Well, there's a battle between two big economic arguments. On the Tory side, what they really want to do by the time they get to the election is be able to claim that you've got, as has started right now, you've got real wages exceeding inflation, that people can feel some kind of benefit. But when I talk to Tories, the thing that they don't quite know how to get around is the mortgage problem. It doesn't affect everybody, but people who are having to renegotiate their mortgage coming out with much higher monthly payments, and that still is squeezing people's incomes. And the Labour Party believe that that's an electoral advantage. The Tory Party hoping to find other ways to manage that, but it remains a big thing that Labour are going to try and capitalise on.